Some of the most revered works of Christian art contain images that look more like nightmares than divine visions. From angels with multiple faces to twisted depictions of hell, religious painters across history have filled sacred walls and altars with unsettling, cryptic messages. Were they merely symbolic, or did these artists glimpse something terrifying? In this video, we'll uncover the hidden meanings, forgotten symbols, and dark intent behind the most disturbing religious paintings ever created. What lies beneath the gold leaf, and halos may not be holy at all. If you're drawn to the mysteries of art, religion, and hidden history, subscribe now. Here, we reveal what others are afraid to show. For centuries, sacred art was more than decoration. It was doctrine carved in color and shadow, and often its most powerful language was fear. Medieval and Renaissance churches were filled with scenes not of heavenly peace, but of torment, judgment, and punishment. These images weren't just religious, they were psychological. They spoke to a population that couldn't read, but could tremble. Artists didn't just paint paradise. They illustrated what would happen if you didn't reach it. Charred bodies writhed in the flames of hell. Demons crawled into mouths, pulled out intestines, or dragged souls by chains. Even the margins of sacred manuscripts were populated with grotesque faces. Laughing devils, tormented monks, and monstrous beasts. But why? Because fear was a tool. A visual theology designed to keep believers obedient. Sin wasn't just preached from pulpits. It was etched into every stained glass window and fresco. Redemption came not from understanding, but from submission, driven by terror. In a world ruled by the church, art became the silent enforcer. What we see in these paintings is more than imagination. It's a reflection of a world where salvation was uncertain and the cost of failure was vividly, horrifically clear. Forget soft wings and glowing halos. The angels of the Bible, the ones described in the earliest texts, are nothing like the serene figures painted in Renaissance chapels. They are overwhelming, alien, and deeply disturbing. Some are wheels of fire, covered in eyes. Others have 4 faces, each pointing in a different direction: lion, ox, eagle, and man. When they appear to humans, their first words are always the same: do not be afraid, because fear is their default reaction. These aren't guardian angels. They are cosmic enforcers, divine mechanisms in a spiritual war beyond human comprehension. Seraphim, cherubim, thrones. They don't just represent God's presence. They radiate a holiness so intense it shatters reality. So why do our churches depict them as winged children? Artistic tradition tamed them, softened them, to make the divine more accessible. But older art tells another story. Medieval illuminations, Eastern Orthodox icons, and early apocalyptic illustrations show these beings in their true form. Eyes without number, bodies of flame, voices like thunder. These images weren't meant to comfort. They were meant to warn. Angels in their raw form remind us the divine is not always gentle. Sometimes it watches with 1,000 eyes and speaks through fire. To walk through the works of Hieronymus Bosch is to descend into a dream or a nightmare dressed in scripture. Centuries before Surrealism, Bosch painted hell not as metaphor, but as place. Tangible, populated, infinite. His triptychs are hellscapes. Twisted cities of sin, swarming with half-human monsters, screaming saints, and devils disguised as clergy. No corner of the canvas is still. Every detail screams. Every figure suffers. Bosch didn't paint from fantasy. He painted from theology, a visual translation of sermons that warned of eternal torment. The grotesque creatures in his works weren't invented. They were interpretations of sins made flesh. Gluttony, pride, lust, and wrath all given teeth. Peter Bruegel continued the legacy. In his triumph of death, skeleton armies sweep across the land, devouring the living in a macabre parody of divine justice. Nobles, peasants, children, all dragged to judgment. These weren't just warnings. They were mirrors. Artists like Bosch and Bruegel held up their brushes to a world ruled by fear, where hell wasn't just a belief, but a destination waiting just beyond every choice. Their art made the invisible real, the abstract personal. And centuries later, we still look and shudder. In the hallowed halls of cathedrals, saints are often shown radiant, cloaked in gold, crowned with light. But look closer and the image changes. Underneath the halos lie shattered bodies. Christian martyrdom has long been a paradox of glory and gore. Saint Sebastian, pierced with arrows, staring calmly at the viewer. Saint Bartholomew, skinned alive, holding his own flesh. Saint Lucy, her eyes gouged out, calmly offering them on a plate. Why were these depictions so violent? Because suffering was sanctified. In early Christian art, the body was a battlefield. Pain became proof of faith. The more gruesome the death, the holier the life. Blood wasn't just spilled, it was venerated. This wasn't voyeurism for its own sake. It was theology made visual. Salvation through agony, transcendence through torment. Martyrdom became a spectacle, not hidden in shame, but exalted in stained glass and fresco. And yet, there's an unsettling beauty to it, a contradiction. These saints are serene in suffering, almost blissful in death. Their broken bodies don't repel, they inspire. But at what cost? The line between glorification and desensitization blurs. In turning saints into icons of pain, did the church offer comfort or create a culture obsessed with holy violence? Not all sacred art speaks loudly. Some whisper, in symbols, gestures, and codes meant only for the initiated. For centuries, religious paintings have hidden messages in plain sight. A skull beneath the Virgin's feet, a serpent coiled around a chalice, a saint's fingers arranged in gestures borrowed from pagan rites. Each detail a fragment of forgotten language. To the average worshiper, these were just ornaments. But to those trained in theology, alchemy, or even astrology, the canvas became a map. Take the anatomical crucifixion, a rare depiction where Christ's body aligns perfectly with the structure of the human brain. Or the frescoes in early Italian chapels that follow celestial patterns, as if syncing salvation with the stars. Some symbols were warnings, others revelations. Painters often walked a fine line, serving the church while preserving older esoteric truths. In a world where knowledge was power and heresy was death, artists embedded their resistance in brushstrokes, sacred geometry, numerology, hermetic symbols, all woven into robes and backgrounds. Not everything in these paintings is holy. Some were veiled critiques. Some encoded doctrine. Some, perhaps, records of visions too dangerous to speak aloud. To see them is to realize the canvas is never silent. You just have to know how to listen. Not all religious art survived unchanged. Some of the most disturbing and revealing pieces were censored, defaced, or quietly removed. Why? Because over time, what was once sacred became uncomfortable. Angels with too many eyes, demons that looked too human, crucifixions too grotesque, saints too broken, or depictions of Mary that challenged doctrine. As church politics shifted, so did its tolerance for ambiguity and for terror. Entire murals were painted over. Manuscripts were burned.